Hi YouTube, it's Kathy. I figured that since the season finale of RuPaul's Drag Race is nearly upon us, I should recommend some books to these queens. Because I know they should read, but they should also read. I decided to put this video together because there's a book that I read recently that I would really love to recommend to one of these queens in particular, and then I decided to come up with some recommendations for all of them. First though, I wanted to start with a blanket recommendation, which is Boy Queen by George Lester. This is a YA coming of age novel about this boy who doesn't get into any of the theater school he wants to go to. On his 18th birthday, he goes to a club, sees drag for the first time, falls in love, and decides to follow that passion. George is fantastic, as is George's alter ego. As for the rest of these recommendations, they're in no particular order. I did want to point out as well that every single book I'm recommending is queer in some way, because representation matters. And if you want more queer recommendations, not only do I host the Queer Lit Readathon, I also have a playlist down below of my A to Z of Queer Lit. My first queen-specific recommendation is for Denali. This is the book that I finished recently and decided to make this entire list because of, and that's Anna on the Edge by AJ Sass. Anna has been figure skating for years, but when her coach moves to a new rink and she has to follow along and she gets this new choreographer that wants her to be very femme, she starts wondering about her own gender. This book is middle grade, has a lot to do with the sports, and then also these friendships. For Denali, I also wanted to sneak in a second recommendation, which is Check Please, which is a graphic novel series that you can read online, but there are 2 volumes in print as well. It's about this cinnamon roll of a boy named Eric Biddy who is a figure skater but uses those talents and crosses over into playing hockey when he gets to college, and it is delightful. Next, for Utica, I have Dress Codes for Small Towns, because as we all know, Utica is from a small town. This has great small town vibes. There's also this group of 6 friends called the Hexagon that are all kind of in love with each other, and they just get up to some great shenanigans. Also, when it comes to being weird and loving fashion, I would like to recommend Magic Mutant Nightmare Girl. For Gottmik, who's one of our top 4 queens, I wanted to make sure to recommend some trans books by trans authors, the first one being Peter Darling. This is a Peter Pan retelling where Wendy Darling escapes to Neverland to become Peter Pan. I also wanted to recommend my favorite book of last year, which is Cemetery Boys by Aidan Thomas. Yadriel is a trans boy who just wants to go through his rites to become a brujo, but his family doesn't know how it's going to work with him being trans, so he decides to do it on his own. He ends up summoning a ghost, and then that ghost won't leave. For Candy Muse, who's loud and vibrant and in love with being from Brooklyn, I want to recommend The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. This is science fiction where once a city is grown up to a certain age, it gets a soul in the form of a person who lives in the city, but sometimes if the city is very large, that soul is spread out over various people. In the case of New York, it gets one soul for New York as a whole and then a different soul for each of the 5 boroughs, and then they become under attack. For Tina Burner, I wanted to recommend Pulp by Robin Talley. This book is dual perspective, and I'm recommending it for Tina because she's a comedy queen as well as living that housewife life. In one perspective, we have this woman who is destined for housewife life, except for she realizes through reading some pulp lesbian fiction that she is a lesbian. And then in the other perspective, we have a teenager who is trying to write her own lesbian pulp fiction. For Elliot with 2 T's, who is all about that dance career, I wanted to recommend Heart and Soul by Erin Kinsella. This is about a woman who writes a historical romance book that's set in Korea, and it ends up being adapted for the screen, and when she gets there she realizes that her favorite bias from her favorite K-pop group is going to be playing the lead. This is the first in a series that covers all of these members of this K-pop group, and there's so much to do with dance and choreography and performing, and that's why I figured Elliot might like it. For Simone, who loves powerful black women, I wanted to recommend Once Ghosted, Twice Shy. This is a small novella in the Reluctant Royal series, but you can read it on its own, or you can read that whole series because honestly, I think that you would enjoy it. This one is about 2 black women that met previously, really hit it off, and then one of them broke it off quickly, and this is a second chance romance. In terms of being an activist, I also wanted to recommend Full Disclosure by Cameron Garrett, which is all about being an activist for those living with AIDS. For Olivia Lux, who has that beautiful smile, that beautiful prom queen smile, I wanted to recommend You Should See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. Our main character in this book is turned down for a scholarship, and the only chance she has now is to win prom queen because in her town that comes with a scholarship. However, she ends up getting feelings for the competition. For Rosé, our resident theater nerd, I have a couple of suggestions. I actually recently did a collaboration video which was recommendations for theater lovers, which I'll link down below. However, in particular, I think Rosé may like How I Pay for College, a novel of sex, theft, friendship, and musical theater. The title really says it all on that one. You also might like All the Better Part of Me by Molly Ringwald, which is about an actor who is acting in London but comes back home to the States to kind of see if his best friend can become his boyfriend. And then of course, if you want something cute and fantastical and doesn't focus on the actors, we have The Backstagers, which is all about the backstage crew in this all-boys high school musical department. For Joey J, I know you like breaking the rules, which comes with a little bit of sarcasm, and for that, I'm going to recommend In Other Lands by Sarah Rees Brennan. This is about a boy that is taken to a fantastical portal land to learn magic, and you can either be in the scholarship track or in the fighting track, and he's one of the few people, if not the only one, that's like, nah, I don't really want to fight. I think I'm gonna learn some things. He's all about strategy and rule breaking, and this book is wonderful. Enjoy. For La La Ree, I wanted to recommend the books of Clara Kahn, which is Let's Talk About Love and If It Makes You Happy. These books are all about queer black girl joy, and I just adore them. For Miss Kamora Hall, I know that you're not a pageant girl, but everyone thinks you're a pageant girl, so I really wanted to recommend Miss Meteor. This book is about two ex-best friends that meet back up with the common goal of getting one of them to win the Miss Meteor pageant so they can take down somebody that is just not great in their community. In addition, the girl that they put forward kind of needs to win, otherwise she's going to return to the stars, but that's a whole different part of the story. And last but not least, for Tamisha Iman, I wanted to recommend The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. This is a breathtakingly beautiful book. It's from the perspective of a girl named Monique, who is a journalist given the opportunity to interview Evelyn Hugo, which nobody has done in about 20 years. And she has no idea why Evelyn asked for her specifically. When she gets there, Monique finds out that it's not for just an interview. Evelyn wants her to write her life story. And that starts out with, who is the love of your life? And guess what? It's not one of those famous 7 husbands. Another blanket recommendation I wanted to give you before I end off this video is The House of Impossible Beauties by Joseph Cassara. This is historical fiction loosely based around the House of Extravaganza. It's about the ball scene. It doesn't take a place a lot in the ball scene, but it has to do with the women behind the scenes. It's also devastating and heartbreaking, so if you need trigger warnings, make sure to look them up ahead of time. I've talked about each and every one of these books before in at least 1, if not 2 or 3 or 4 videos, so if you need to know anything else about these books, just search my name and the book title and the appropriate video should come up. I also have the playlist to my weekly entertainment wrap-ups always linked down below. Every week since the beginning of 2017, I have sat down to tell you what I read, watched, and listened to, so check that out if you would like to. To the queens, I hope you love your recommendations. Please feel free to let me know if you do. To everyone else, what would you recommend? Let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. If you don't feel like leaving a comment, but want to make sure that I know you were here, just leave me an emoji or a smiley face if you're on your keyboard. Some people have asked if there's a way to financially support this channel, so I set up a Ko-fi account, which is a digital tipping service. The link for that is down below, as well as the link to my PayPal and my Amazon wishlist in case you would like to buy me a book. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!